I don't know. You have film on. Your more safer pick, I guess, would be Jaden Ivey.
Uh-huh. Jeff, can I point out some irony? Just
What's
just just pretty quickly. Can I do that?
what's
The
up?
way you talk about Shaden Sharpe is eerily similar to how I talked about a guy with the name of Chet Holmgren. And you're talking about Jaden Ivey very similarly to how we talk about the Jabari Chet debate. Because what is going on? I want to welcome you from Half Court for today, Thursday, May 19th. I am your host, Sean Murphy, alongside my guy, no longer in person, but we are back together again, nonetheless. My guy, Jeff Iafrady. Jeff, we had a really eventful, fun couple days in Detroit together. Really fun to hang out, do the lottery stream, but also just, bro out. It was a really
Yeah.
good time. And now we're back to doing content, baby.
Oh, it was great. I mean, it's always awesome to see, obviously, but
Mhm.
just being in person, doing the lottery. The lottery show was a lot of fun. We had the whole
Yes.
everybody at the studio, tons of people tuning in, supporting. So that's probably the number one thing I had to say is just thank you to everybody. I mean, that was big time. Obviously, the draft is still a month away, and
Mhm.
I can't wait for that because I think we're gonna one up the lottery stream. We're just gonna keep making it better.
Oh, 100%. As a recording, we are at 6.9 thousand views on YouTube, which is absolutely crazy. And there are concurrent almost 700 people in the stream. So thank you to everybody that showed out and showed
Yeah, that
up
was
for
awesome.
that. It was it got more views than any of the on network shows during the day, which is unreal because those are some great shows with some really talented people. So we just appreciate everyone that came out and supported. But with that, Jeff, the Detroit Pistons had the lottery happened. And
Yeah.
Jeff, we fell out of the top three. It was going to happen more than likely to one of those three teams that had the top odds. It appears that the Sacramento Kings rose in the order and got to the fourth overall pick slot. I guess Domantas Sabonis was good luck to them somehow after all, but that will be the best moment he'll ever have as a King. But with that, Jeff, first of all, how are you feeling now that as of recording, we're about a day removed, 24 hours removed from the lottery? How are you feeling right now?
I'm feeling good, and that I kind of already mentally prepared myself for this. I kind of already went through the prospects and just kind of reminded myself that this draft isn't just, it is. There's three guys that are great, but there's also other great players in this draft. So I
Mm-hmm.
had to kind of settle myself. That was the day prior, and then the lottery happened, so I wasn't that disappointed. Especially, and I've been saying this a ton lately. You have Troy Weaver, and everybody
Yep.
knows that. I felt like just keep on repeating that, but it's true. I mean, you have a guy, and it's not always about where you're selecting; it's who's selecting, and that's very important. I mean, even though you're selecting five, you might very well get one of the best players still. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
you don't know who's going to fall. You don't know what the teams in front of you are going to do. I mean, Troy, honestly, he could trade up if he wanted to, if he finds somebody he really loves. So there's just so much, left that we need to dive into in the next month. But I'm excited because it clears a lot of things up. And we talked about it. We've been
Yeah.
talking about this for weeks, but even before this, we just got to get to the lottery because once
Yep.
we find out where we're picking, it'll be easiest for it to digest who we possibly could select.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one thing that the lottery did for me in a weird way made me more open to the idea of signing a guy like DeAndre Ayton, knowing now that we're not going to get one of those bigs. I think it makes and adjusts what you do in free agency. And some of the guys that we're going to be talking about over the coming days, these are not consolation prizes as players. There are some actually really solid NBA players in this draft class. And today, Jeff, I want to focus specifically. I know right now ESPN's original mock draft had the Detroit Pistons selecting Jaden Ivey, and Keegan Murray went fourth overall to the Sacramento Kings. We'll talk about Keegan Murray tomorrow or later this week. But Jeff, let's start with Jaden Ivey and Shaedon Sharpe. We did a video specifically on Shaedon Sharpe. However, Jeff, I want to compare these guys because the Detroit Pistons now have an opportunity to go after two of the best guards in this draft. And in my opinion, the two best guards are Shaedon Sharpe and Jaden Ivey. Are they not?
Yeah, they are absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And how I would answer that question, I kind of talked about it a little bit on Big D Energy on Woodward Sports. It's
Mhm.
about what Troy wants to do. Do you want to go and take a guy like Shaedon Sharpe, who there are more question marks about him? He hasn't obviously played his entire freshman season at Kentucky, but there's a tremendous upside, an upside that I think is the highest upside in the draft. That's just my take on it. Or do you want to go after Jaden Ivey, who you've seen? There's plenty of film on. He's electric, but I think there's differences also. People just look at it and see there's two guards. I think they're very different players.
Mhm.
But again, it just depends what route he wants to go. What route I would go, it's tough to say. I'm always a guy. I love upside. I mean, if a guy, and it's not just upside. It's what looking at a player and understanding that there's things. If your shot's not falling, who are you? And I think with Shaedon Sharpe, I'm getting a lot more of that raw athleticism. I mean, the guy's 6'6", nearly 7-foot wingspan. 49-inch vertical. I mean, it's ridiculous what he can do as an athlete. And I think
Right.
that's going to matter. I mean, in the backcourt with Cade, that's kind of the dynamic backcourt I see and I've always imagined in my head. So
Mhm.
that's kind of the route I would go. But Jaden Ivey certainly, man, I hate doing that because I think he's going to be a great player as well. So
Yeah.
it's a matter of taste. What's your flavor?
Well,
It's really
yeah,
what it comes down to.
absolutely. Because here's the thing: you talk about how great Shaedon Sharpe is as an athlete. The crazy thing about it, it's a compliment to shit. It's a compliment to Shaedon Sharpe because Jaden Ivey's no slouch as an athlete either. I mean, people are comparing his game to John Morant for a reason,
Yeah.
right? I mean, you go on Twitter. A couple months ago, I was like, all right, guys, let's slow down because the John Morant comparison, I do think the way that he plays the game and approaches the game is similar to Ja. However, John Morant is the second coming of Allen Iverson. That's not going to be Jaden Ivey. Jaden Ivey can come in. I think a better comp for him is a guy like Darius Garland, perhaps even Colin Sexton, come in and be one of those guards. Maybe a little bit more athletic. I think Darius Garland more like a skillful guy. But I think with Ivy, he's explosive. I think he has Detroit roots. His mom played for the Shock. His grandfather played
Yeah.
for the Detroit Lions. Credit to our guy Anthony Pistons Talk for going out and getting that for us because that's really fascinating facts and information just tied deep rooted to Detroit. Not that that would be the reason you draft him, of course. However, the guy can play. My question with not only Jaden Ivey but Shaedon Sharpe as well. Not only what are you when your shot's not falling, but what are you when the ball's not in your hands? Because Cade Cunningham, guys, is gonna need to have the ball at at a lot of key points in the game in order for us to be in the best position to succeed. And whoever we bring in needs to be as good of a player with the ball as they are without it. And so I see Jaden Ivey. I haven't seen really much of Shaedon Sharpe outside of his high school footage. These guys can touch the ball and do as much as they want. That's not going to be the case if they come to Detroit, Jeff.
Yeah, and I agree with that's a great point you brought up because that's a point that certainly needs to be talked about. Jaden Ivey, most of his success had the ball in his hands a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Whoever's coming to Detroit, Cade is the guy. I mean, you need another ball handler, but like you said, you need someone that can be terrific off the ball. And I think Shaedon Sharpe provides that. I mean, he could catch lobs. My God, I mean, the guy is crazy athletic.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a shot maker. I mean, that's the thing I look at and I want in my backcourt. So is Jaden Ivey, but I think as the year went on, Jaden's efficiencies kind of went down. So I think there's potential there. And Shaedon Sharpe struggles to shoot threes, so I understand that as well. But
Mm-hmm.
I just love what I'm getting out of Shaedon Sharpe. And Jaden Ivey certainly is an awesome prospect, but that's what kind of separates it for me. I just think the upside of Shaedon Sharpe's it's too attractive to look away from it. But
Now,
again, Troy Weaver might want someone who's, more, I guess, I don't know. You have film on. Your more safer pick, I guess, would be Jaden Ivey.
uh-huh. Jeff, can I point out some irony? Just
What's
just just pretty quickly. Can I do that?
what's
The
up?
way you talk about Shaedon Sharpe is eerily similar to how I talked about a guy with the name of Chet Holmgren. And you're talking about Jaden Ivey very similarly to how we talk about the Jabari Chet debate. Because again, Jaden Ivey might be able to come into the league day one and have more of an impact, right? Shaedon Sharpe, first of all, only real competition he got was in practice gyms. I don't care who you are, being out of regulation and actual games for that amount of time, let alone to go to the pro game, that's going to be an adjustment for anybody. But also on top of that, I think you look at the floor of what Jaden Ivey is and what he's going to bring in day one. We know it's a known commodity at the very least. That guy could be a good starting point guard for years to come. you know? And whereas with Shaedon Sharpe, we don't know what his floor could be. For all we know, he might need time in the G League this season. And I'm not trying to be blasphemous. Again, we just don't know how NBA ready he's going to be because we didn't get to see how he actually was going to do versus that level of talent in college. Now, obviously, I know our guy Ashton very high on Shaedon. We did a video talking about more of those risks and those pros and cons. And Jeff, you and I at the time we were a little more timid. However, I think when you're at the number 5 overall pick, and at that
It's
point,
reality.
yeah, at that point when reality strikes, at that point he looks really tantalizing because he really could be the best player in this draft. But in my opinion, so could Jaden Ivey.
And that's why I brought up the point about what does Troy Weaver want to do? And that's what I'm so interested in. That's probably the number one storyline I'm most interested in going into the NBA draft, because if Troy Weaver wants to take the patient route, and I'm okay with that. I mean, the Pistons, I guess you set their expectation as the play-in, but they're not a playoff team as soon as next year. Like, they have time. You want the best player, and obviously Troy Weaver said it in his press conference. He'd be comfortable taking somebody as soon as the day of. Like, he's already done his homework on everybody. Now the next month is where you interview these guys. You have a chance to kind of get a feel for them, their mindset, how they approach it, how you connect with them. And I think that's what's going to separate Shaedon Sharpe and Jaden Ivey. So I'm going to let the process play out. But just from looking at these guys side by side, man, it's hard not to say Sharpe just has that attractive upside. Guy, and I'm not talking about, they're both going to be great players, but the type of bounce Shaedon Sharpe has, he gives me Jalen Green vibes. Like, this guy is flying, and everybody was raving about Jalen Green last year. Yeah, but again, you saw Jalen Green playing against grown men, so I get the difference.
Yeah,
but I'm excited about him. At number 5, you can still find value.
Yeah, and I think again it comes down to, like you said, that flavor, because Jaden Ivey, I watch his bounce and whoo-wee.
He flies.
All I'm saying, I go back and forth between the two because everything I hear about Sharpe, all the footage I've seen of him in AAU and all this stuff. The guy's an absolute freak of nature. However, Jaden Ivey, just seeing the stuff he's done throughout the Big Ten, throughout like really tough stern competition. Obviously, people may be a little scared and overreacting to his tournament results and what happened against St. Peter's. However,
and I hate that too.
Yeah, I do too.
People
man.
overreact to tournament results.
Well, because it's selective. That's the truth. Because first of all, let's be honest, and I will bring this up as a slight. This is just fact. Cade struggled when he was in the tournament.
Right.
He had a rough shooting day. Does that mean we should doubt Cade Cunningham? Heck no. That just means it's March, baby. That's what happens. You know what I mean? So with that, Jaden Ivey, Shaedon Sharpe, both going to be good NBA players. Both very well could be available at number 5. And the real question is, what do you think? Be sure to let us know in the comment section down below. But also, be sure to like this video. Subscribe to the channel because we are on the road to 1,000 subscribers. And then on top of that, be sure to follow my guy, Jeff Iafrady, on Twitter at Jeff Iafrady, myself at Sean Halfcourt, as you can see right here. And with that, I want to thank you all so much for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time from Half Court. Be sure to subscribe.